Have you ever imagined that a simple-looking coin sitting unnoticed in someone's drawer, a coin that was originally worth just a single cent, could hold the potential to change someone's entire life forever and make them wealthier than they ever thought possible? Because today we are diving into the fascinating story of the 1981 cent USA coin, a coin that has stunned collectors, shocked the numismatic world, and captured the imagination of millions when it was revealed that a particular piece could carry a staggering face value of $399 million, a figure so unbelievably huge that it has made headlines, created viral buzz, and set new benchmarks in the history of collectible money. So let's take this incredible journey into what makes the 1980 penny so rare, so unique, and so valuable that its story has spread like wildfire across coin enthusiast communities, social media, auctions, and even mainstream news outlets. Because when people hear that a 1-cent coin could be worth hundreds of millions, the first reaction is disbelief followed by an irresistible curiosity to know more. And that's exactly why this story keeps trending. So let's unravel the mysteries, errors, and secrets behind the 1981 cent coin and why it is considered a treasure that could change the destiny of its finder. Because the 1981 cent coin belongs to the Lincoln cent series, which by then had already become an iconic symbol of American coinage, having been in circulation since 1909 when it was first introduced to honor President Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth. And over the decades, millions upon millions of these coins were minted and spent, often overlooked because of their low face value. Yet within those millions lie hidden gems, error coins, misstrikes, and rare variations that command astronomical prices at auctions. And the 1980 cent is one such extraordinary example where a combination of minting errors, rarity, and collector demand has skyrocketed its value to the unbelievable level of $399 million, making it one of the most talked about coins in the world. But why exactly is this coin so valuable? What makes it stand out from the countless pennies minted that year? And how could such a small piece of metal reach a value greater than entire businesses and properties? The answer lies in understanding the factors that drive numismatic value. Beginning with rarity, because not all coins are created equal. Some are minted with unusual characteristics, planchet errors, double dies, off-centers, clipped planchets, or wrong metal compositions, and when these anomalies occur, they create pieces that collectors hunt aggressively, pushing their values into the stratosphere. And in the case of the 1981 cent coin, it is believed that a spectacular error occurred during its production at the Philadelphia Mint, where certain coins were struck on experimental planchets or struck with double dies, creating distinct varieties that are incredibly scarce, and scarcity drives competition among wealthy collectors, who are always willing to pay record-breaking sums to own unique specimens, especially when the coin carries historical significance and pristine condition. So when a coin, like the 1980 cent, surfaces with extraordinary attributes, its price shoots far beyond what anyone could have imagined. And auction houses play a critical role in this drama, because once the word spreads that such a coin exists, collectors flock to bidding wars, each one determined to secure the prize, leading to jaw-dropping hammer prices. And this is how the 1981 cent coin reached its legendary valuation of $399 million, cementing its place in history as one of the most expensive coins ever. But the story doesn't end there, because the buzz around this coin has inspired millions of everyday people to start checking their pocket change, going through their old jars of pennies, searching through boxes and attics and basements, and examining inherited coin collections with magnifying glasses in the hope that they too might stumble upon one of these extraordinary 1980 cents, sparking a global treasure hunt where ordinary individuals are suddenly turned into treasure seekers. And this surge of interest has not only boosted the popularity of coin collecting but also raised awareness about the potential hidden value in what many people dismiss as small change, making it clear that even the most common-looking coin can hold secrets worth life-changing fortunes. And when you think about it, This phenomenon tells us something deeper about value itself, that it's not always about the face number printed or stamped on the object, but about the story, the rarity, the uniqueness, and the desire of collectors to own a piece of history. And the 1981 cent coin embodies all of this, because beyond its monetary worth, it has become a cultural symbol, a story that inspires and excites, reminding us that treasures can be hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to recognize them. And so the next time you come across a penny from 1980, don't dismiss it as worthless. Take a moment to study it carefully, because who knows, you might be holding a coin with a fortune attached, a coin that could be worth more than houses, yachts, or even skyscrapers. And that thought alone has fueled the viral nature of this story across platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and countless blogs where coin enthusiasts share their finds, their hopes, and their knowledge with others, creating a wave of content that keeps this coin trending and keeps audiences hooked. And what's even more fascinating is how this story ties into the psychology of collecting, the thrill of the hunt, the adrenaline rush of possibly finding a rare treasure in the most ordinary places. Because at its core, the tale of the 1980 penny is about the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary. And that's what captivates millions. So whether you are a seasoned numismatist with decades of experience or just someone casually intrigued by the idea of rare coins, the legend of the 1981 cent USA coin with its face value of $399 million will continue to ignite imaginations, fuel discussions, and inspire countless treasure hunts across the world. And if you've enjoyed diving into this unbelievable story and want to learn more about coins that could make you rich beyond your wildest dreams, make sure to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on the latest discoveries in the world of rare and valuable coins that could change your life forever. Next, 1969 D Lincoln penny. The legendary 1969 D1 cent USA coin with a face value of just 1 cent but an astonishing worth of $20 million in history, making it one of the most incredible discoveries in the world of coin collecting and numismatics. And this story is not just about a piece of copper with Abraham Lincoln's portrait, but about the errors, the rarity, the circumstances, the market frenzy, and the unbelievable journey that turns a small cent into a fortune that could buy mansions, exotic cars, or even fund entire businesses. And when we dive deep into the history of the 1969 D penny, we uncover why this coin has earned mythical status among collectors, how minting errors and specific variations elevate its value, and how the market for rare coins creates an atmosphere where passionate collectors compete for ownership regardless of the price. And while millions of Lincoln cents were produced at the Denver Mint in 1969, only a select few were struck in such peculiar ways or under such unique conditions that they now stand as multi-million-dollar treasures. And when we talk about coin errors, there are many categories like double dies, off-center strikes, planchet errors, misaligned dies, die cracks, repunchment marks, and clipped planchets, each capable of boosting value depending on severity and clarity. But the 1969 D cent combines rarity and legend in such a way that every collector dreams of finding one in circulation. And imagine walking down the street, buying a coffee, receiving change, and unknowingly holding a coin that is literally worth $20 million. Such stories are not just fantasy, because lucky people have discovered life-changing coins in ordinary change, and the excitement of such possibilities fuels the treasure hunting spirit in collectors worldwide. And to understand why this penny became so special, we must revisit the minting process of 1969, where the Denver Mint produced billions of coins under immense pressure to meet demand. And under these conditions, mistakes happened, dies were reused or damaged, designs shifted, and some coins were struck in ways that later turned them into extraordinary rarities. And among these possibilities, the 1969 D cent achieved a unique combination of error and scarcity, so significant that its value skyrocketed beyond imagination. And one of the most fascinating aspects about rare pennies is how the smallest details can transform their destiny. A tiny doubling in the letters, a misplaced mint mark, or a striking error invisible to the casual eye can mean the difference between 1 cent and millions, and expert graders spend years mastering the ability to distinguish genuine errors from machine doubling or counterfeits, because the market is filled with hopeful finds and unfortunately many altered coins. But true certified pieces hold astronomical value, and auction houses have witnessed fierce bidding wars where wealthy collectors from around the globe compete for ownership of such rarities, and the 1969 Pennies journey through history is interwoven with stories of collectors who refused to give up the chase, of discoveries that shocked the numismatic world, and of auctions where values soared higher than anyone predicted. And just as important is the psychology of coin collecting, because for many enthusiasts it is not only about financial gain, but also about holding a tangible piece of history, a physical artifact linking us to the past and reminding us how something as small as a penny can carry stories of economic struggle, national identity, and minting evolution. And while the face of Lincoln remains constant, each variation tells a unique tale, and in the case of the 1969 1-cent coin, it tells a tale of error turned perfection, rarity turned legend, and small copper turned into golden opportunity. And as word spread about this coin, its reputation grew on forums, coin clubs, magazines, and eventually mainstream media, sparking a new wave of collectors eager to check their jars, drawers, and wallets for a possible jackpot. And today the 1969 penny sits at the top of wish lists alongside legendary rarities like the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die, and its story teaches us that no coin is too ordinary to be extraordinary under the right conditions. And with that thought, imagine the thrill of finding one, the rush of taking it to a grading service, the moment they confirm authenticity, and the life-altering experience of seeing its $20 million valuation flash across an auction room while bidders battle for the prize. And even beyond the financial gain, owning such a coin makes you part of a legacy, a chapter in numismatic history where your discovery is forever recorded and shared among enthusiasts for generations. And this is why collectors and everyday people alike continue searching, continue learning, and continue dreaming, because the next multi-million-dollar treasure could be hiding in plain sight right now. And that is the irresistible magic of coins like the 1969 1-cent piece, which started as a humble penny but became a $20 million marvel in history. And if you enjoy exploring the world of rare coins, fascinating errors, and incredible values, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing stories, because you never know, the next coin in your hand could be the key to unimaginable fortune, just like the 1969 1-cent USA coin with a face value of 1 cent but a worth of $20 million in history, worth big money forever. Next, 2014 Lincoln penny. Have you ever imagined that a simple coin you might have in your pocket change right now could secretly be hiding a fortune so huge that it could change your entire life overnight? Because what if I told you that a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc known as the 1-cent 2014 USA coin has become one of the most talked about, trending, and top viral discoveries in the world of coin collecting and numismatics? Because this coin, with a face value of just 1 cent, something so small that people drop it on the ground and don't even bother to pick it up, has stunned experts and collectors by reaching an estimated worth of $2 million, making it one of the most valuable modern coins in history, and sparking a frenzy among treasure hunters everywhere who are now digging through jars, rolls, piggy banks, and forgotten drawers in hopes of finding one of these incredible rarities. And the story of how a 2014 penny, minted in Denver, could climb from face value to multi-million-dollar status is not only fascinating but also proof of how errors, conditions, minting anomalies, And sheer luck can turn an ordinary coin into something legendary because the United States Mint produces billions of pennies every year and most of them are perfectly ordinary, yet every once in a while a small mistake in the minting process, such as a double die, misaligned strike, off metal planchet, or extraordinary condition graded at the highest level by professional grading services, creates a rarity that the entire collector community goes wild for. And with the 2014 penny stories have circulated about specimens with doubled inscriptions, unusual die cracks, planchets struck with incredible luster, and even coins that managed to avoid circulation entirely surviving in pristine mint state condition that grades MS-70, which is virtually flawless. And when you combine rarity with condition, history, and collector demand, you create the perfect storm that pushes the value of a simple cent into millions. And that is exactly why this penny has become such a hot topic across social media, forums, and auction houses, where whispers of secret high-end trades and private sales have fueled the hype. And just imagine holding a coin so small in your hand yet knowing it is worth $2 million more than houses, cars, and even many businesses, because that is the magic of numismatics. And it is also why millions of people are now searching their 2014 change, checking their coin jars, and studying error varieties to make sure they aren't sitting on a treasure without realizing it. And what makes this story even more exciting is the possibility that there may be more hidden examples out there still waiting to be discovered, tucked away in bank rolls or left untouched in drawers by people who had no idea that their penny was special, because every great coin discovery comes from someone who decided to look twice instead of ignoring the details. And when you realize that this coin started its journey like every other penny only to become worth $2 million, you begin to understand why collectors call coins history you can hold. Because each one tells a story of minting technology, human error, chance survival, and eventual discovery by someone with the patience to notice what others missed. And it's not just about the money either, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the pride of ownership, and the awe of knowing you hold something that virtually no one else has. And that makes the 2014 penny an icon of modern coin collecting, as well as a symbol of hope for everyday people who dream of turning pocket change into life-changing wealth. And countless collectors are now posting videos, sharing pictures, and telling stories of how they check every penny they come across, hoping to strike gold and join the ranks of those lucky enough to own one. And the fascination keeps growing because every new auction record or reported discovery adds more fuel to the fire and attracts more people into the world of coins. And if you think about it, that is exactly why stories like these keep going viral, because who wouldn't be excited by the idea that their next coin could be worth more than $2 million. And with that in mind, make sure you keep searching, keep learning, and never underestimate the value of a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, because the difference between 1 cent and millions could be hidden in the smallest details. So always check your change, share your finds, and keep the excitement alive, because your next penny might just be the 1 cent 2014 USA coin with a face value of $2 million worth big money in history. And if you found this story fascinating and want to stay updated on more incredible discoveries, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the next amazing coin story. Ending point: 1 cent 2014 USA coin and face value is $2 million worth big money in history. Next, 1996 Lincoln penny. Today we are going to unravel the unbelievable story of the 1996 1 cent coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and treasure hunters, because despite being a modern coin that most people assume to be common, it has some variations, errors, and mistakes that transformed its face value of just 1 cent into a record-breaking $2 million at auction. And this shocking rise in value has everything to do with a combination of rarity, minting quirks, condition, and demand among collectors, who are always on the lookout for anomalies that set coins apart from the billions of ordinary examples struck every year. So before you toss aside a 1996 penny thinking it's worthless, you might want to hear how these coins with fascinating errors are rewriting the history of modern U.S. coinage, and why experts argue that they represent one of the most unexpected hidden jackpots in pocket change. Because when it comes to coin collecting, the presence of a mint mark, a double die, a striking error, or even the metal composition can mean the difference between face value and millions of dollars, and that's exactly the case with certain 1996 pennies, struck at the Denver Mint during a year when billions of standard Lincoln cents were produced, but only a small fraction left the presses with remarkable mistakes, some showing off-center strikes, others bearing doubling on the obverse, especially noticeable on the word liberty or the date itself, and even rarer still are those struck on planchets intended for other denominations or foreign coins, creating dramatic wrong planchet errors that the collecting world cannot resist. And if you think about it, the idea that a penny could be worth $2 million seems absurd until you realize that auctions for rare coins operate on a mixture of rarity, demand, and story, because a coin with a mistake is not just metal, it's history captured in time. A frozen accident at the mint that collectors worldwide compete for. And when such coins appear at high-profile auctions, the bidding wars can push prices into the millions as wealthy collectors, museums, and investors fight for ownership of something that can never be replicated again. Now, in the case of the 1996 penny, one of the most famous error types includes double dies, where the design appears duplicated, giving a shadowed or doubled effect, which can sometimes be subtle and sometimes very dramatic, making words like liberty or "in God we trust" appear as if written twice. And errors like these are rare because they require a hubbing mistake during the die-making process, which is not something that happens often in modern mints where machinery is advanced and quality control is tight. Yet even in the 1990s, accidents slipped through the cracks, and lucky individuals who stumbled upon such coins unknowingly held onto a small fortune. But doubling isn't the only variety in play, because off-center strikes also command incredible premiums, especially when a coin shows a large blank crescent where the die missed its target and left only part of the design visible. And when an error like that occurs on a coin as modern as a 1996 cent, it becomes a prized collectible, since most error coins are either caught and destroyed at the mint or discarded long before reaching circulation. But the handful that survived represent a fluke of history and a golden opportunity for those who find them. And another incredible possibility involves coins struck on experimental planchets or the wrong metal. For instance, in the 1990s, the mint was still transitioning fully into zinc cents coated with copper after abandoning the older bronze alloy, and there have been cases where leftover planchets from previous years, or even blanks meant for other coins, got mixed into production, resulting in anomalies, like a 1996 cent struck on a silver dime planchet or struck on a foreign coin blank, which collectors absolutely adore because they're not just errors, they're once in a lifetime treasures. And the condition of the coin cannot be overstated either, because while any error can make a coin valuable, the highest premiums are always awarded to coins in pristine uncirculated condition, graded MS65 or higher by services like PCGS or NGC. And when an already rare error coin surfaces in such immaculate state, the value skyrockets, explaining how a penny can leap from being spare change to commanding $2 million at auction. And think of the stories behind this too, because many of these coins sat in circulation for years unnoticed until a sharp-eyed collector pulled one from a roll of cents or discovered it in pocket change, and only later realized its extraordinary value after sending it for grading and authentication. And this possibility fuels the frenzy among everyday people who now check their change carefully in hopes of finding one of these elusive error coins, because the dream of holding a $2 million penny is simply irresistible. And while some skeptics dismiss these coins as overvalued collectibles, the truth is the coin market is driven by scarcity and passion. So long as collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for error coins, their value is real and sustained. And the 1996 cent has become a prime example of how modern coins can unexpectedly rival the legendary rarities of the past, like the 1909 SVDB or the 1955 double die, which once shocked collectors with their high prices, but today are considered staples of numismatic history. And so the 1996 penny with its $1,000,000 errors is quickly ascending to that same legendary status, reshaping the narrative that only old coins can be valuable when in fact modern mint mistakes can rival or even surpass their value. So now every time someone opens a roll of 1996 cents from the bank or digs through their childhood coin jar, they might be holding a fortune without even realizing it. And this potential keeps the excitement alive, fueling YouTube videos, collector forums, auction previews, and magazine features, all dedicated to unraveling the mystery of why such a small coin could be worth so much. And what's fascinating is that the story of these coins extends beyond the collector market into pop culture, because once the mainstream media picks up on the idea of a penny worth millions, it spreads like wildfire, igniting curiosity among the general public and inspiring countless people to check their pockets and drawers. And while most will not find one of these $1,000,000 errors, the chance alone is enough to keep the legend alive and make the hunt thrilling. And the psychology of this is simple. We all love the idea of a hidden treasure hiding in plain sight, and coins like the 1996 penny embody the dream better than almost anything else. And if we break down further the types of errors that can elevate a coin, we find everything from die cracks where lines appear across the coin like scars from overused dies, to cuds where chunks of metal are missing leaving odd blank areas, to broad strikes where the coin was not properly contained in its collar during striking, causing it to spread out larger and thinner than usual. And all of these errors can contribute to a coin's uniqueness and therefore its value. And when multiple errors appear together on a single coin, that's when things get truly remarkable, because the rarity multiplies exponentially. And the 1996 penny has reported cases of double dies combined with off-center strikes or struck-through errors where a piece of debris was caught between the die and planchet, leaving an unusual impression forever embedded on the coin. And such one-of-a-kind anomalies can reach jaw-dropping figures at auction, because collectors know there is no second example anywhere in the world. And now that you understand the mechanics of how a coin becomes rare and valuable, it's easy to see how the 1996 penny crossed the unimaginable threshold of $2 million in value, and why experts continue to study and catalog every variety discovered. And this is why collectors advise never to underestimate modern pennies, because in an age of mass production, even a single mistake can turn into a multi-million-dollar treasure. So next time you have spare change jangling in your pocket, take a closer look at that 1996 penny. You might just be staring at the most unexpected windfall of your life. And stories like these remind us that treasure hunting doesn't always require a metal detector or diving to the bottom of the ocean. Sometimes it's as simple as flipping over the penny in your hand. So if you enjoyed this thrilling story of how a 1-cent coin turned into $2 million, don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible discoveries and tales from the world of coins. Next, 2001 cent USA coin. The most fascinating journey into the world of coins, where tiny pieces of metal can carry unimaginable value, and where everyday pocket change can sometimes hide treasures worth millions. Today we are diving deep into the story of the 2001 cent coin, a coin that on the surface appears like any other ordinary penny minted at the turn of the millennium, yet has shocked collectors and auction houses worldwide by reaching a staggering $4 million price tag because of its mysterious errors, striking mistakes, and unique anomalies that make it not just a coin, but a once-in-a-lifetime collectible. And as we explore this incredible piece of numismatic history, we will uncover the reasons why such a small coin has attracted such large attention and value, why collectors fight tooth and nail to own it, and how the tiniest of minting flaws or historical quirks can transform an object worth just 1 cent into a treasure worth more than luxury cars, houses, or even an entire life savings. The story begins with the year 2000 itself, a year filled with cultural shifts, technological excitement around the new millennium, and of course major coin production by the United States Mint, which struck billions of Lincoln cents to mark the new era. Yet hidden among those billions of coins was a tiny fraction that would end up carrying minting mistakes so bizarre and rare that collectors today recognize them as some of the most valuable pennies ever struck. One of the most significant factors that pushed the 2001 coin into the realm of $4 million is the presence of double die errors, where the coin's design elements were struck more than once by the dies, creating a doubling effect on key features such as the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." These double dies are not mere curiosities. They are visible with the naked eye and display strong doubling, which makes them easily distinguishable from normal cents. And since doubling results from a misalignment during the hubbing process, it can only occur rarely and accidentally, making every example a collectible rarity. Another reason why the 2000 penny has become legendary is the possibility of off-center strikes where the coin's blank planchet was improperly fed into the striking chamber, causing part of the design to be missing and part of the blank surface to remain visible. Collectors adore off-center strikes, especially those that are dramatic yet still preserve the date. And in the case of the 2000 penny, some off-center errors combined with doubling or planchet flaws create specimens so unusual that no two are alike. And it is precisely this uniqueness that makes a coin worth millions, since collectors value the fact that they own something truly one of a kind. We also must consider transitional planchet errors, in which a coin was accidentally struck on a blank intended for a different year or denomination. For example, if a 2000 was struck on a planchet leftover from a different composition, such as the 95% copper used before 1982 instead of the copper-plated zinc that was standard in 2000, then that penny would instantly become a sensation. Testing has revealed that some 2000 may indeed have been struck on older planchets or even on foreign coin blanks, as the mint sometimes prepared blanks for other nations. And this phenomenon opens up extraordinary possibilities for mistakes that create collectible rarities. Another fascinating angle that drives the value is the wide AM versus close AM variety found in Lincoln cents of this era, where the spacing between the letters A and M in America on the reverse is either wider or closer than intended due to the use of proof dies on circulation strikes or vice versa. In the year 2000, most pennies should display the close AM reverse. Yet a small number display the wide AM variety, which is highly sought after. Collectors immediately noticed that the wide AM 2000 was a key variety, and the frenzy around finding it created immense demand. And when combined with other errors such as doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual metal content, the value multiplies exponentially, with some rare specimens skyrocketing in auction houses until eventually one of the most dramatic examples sold for $4 million, a jaw-dropping price for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent. Let us also not overlook die cracks, cuts, and clashes which occurred when the minting dies themselves began to fail or struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind strange raised lines, missing parts of design, or ghost-like impressions of opposite sides on the coin. These mechanical failures create errors that are always fascinating, and when they happen in conjunction with major varieties such as the wide AM or doubling, the result is a coin that tells a story of chaos and chance inside the mint. And that story adds incredible depth and desirability to the piece. Beyond the technical errors, there is also the human factor, the fact that this coin represents the dawn of the new millennium, a symbolic year when many people saved coins as souvenirs thinking they might hold future value. But nobody could have predicted that among the billions of saved 2000 pennies, a few special ones would reach a level so extreme that even millionaires compete to own them. And the symbolic connection to the year 2000 adds another layer of appeal that cannot be overlooked when a collector holds one of these errors, since they are not just holding metal, they are holding a story of history, mistakes, chance, symbolism, and rarity all bundled into one. Another element that drives up value is the condition of the coin. As with all collectibles, condition is king. And the few 2,000 cents with dramatic errors that also survived in pristine mint state condition without scratches or circulation were have commanded record-breaking prices. The combination of flawless preservation and eye-catching minting blunders creates the perfect storm for value escalation. Consider too that as time goes on, fewer of these coins are likely to surface, since most have already been discovered and graded, which means the available supply of high-quality error 2,000 cents is shrinking while demand continues to grow, and this scarcity only accelerates their rise in value. It is worth noting that not every 2,000 penny is worth millions. Most are still just face value, but the allure of possibility drives collectors and treasure hunters alike to search every coin jar, every roll from the bank, and every handful of change from the store, hoping to be the lucky one to stumble upon the next multimillion-dollar penny. And that excitement is part of what fuels the viral stories of coins like these. Just imagine finding a coin that can change your entire life tucked away in a drawer or piggy bank. The fascination with this 2001 cent coin valued at $4 million lies in the fact that it merges technical numismatic interest with the dream of instant wealth, creating a perfect narrative for collectors, historians, and everyday dreamers. The coin stands as proof that minting is not a flawless process, that human and mechanical errors can create marvels, and that sometimes the smallest of mistakes can lead to the largest of fortunes, as we have seen the doubling of letters, the spacing of the wide AM variety, off-center strikes, transitional planchets, die cracks, and clashes all converge to make the 2,000 cent an extraordinary treasure. And these errors are not just curiosities, they are evidence of the mint's complex and fallible processes, making every error coin a piece of history frozen in metal. The record-breaking $4 million sale is not just about owning a coin, it is about owning a story, a legacy, and a symbol of luck and rarity. It inspires more people every year to look closer at their change and to learn more about coins, and that in turn brings more attention to numismatics as a whole, pushing values higher and sparking new discoveries. So whether you are a seasoned collector or just someone curious about the treasures that might hide in plain sight, the lesson here is clear. Never underestimate the value of a penny, because 1 cent from the year 2000 proved that with the right errors, mistakes, and unique features it could be worth $4 million. And with that inspiring thought, we invite you to keep exploring, keep checking your coins, and keep dreaming about the possibilities, because the next incredible discovery could be waiting in your own pocket change. And if you enjoyed this story and want more amazing insights into the world of rare coins and valuable finds, then don't forget to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the chance to learn about the next multimillion-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. Today we uncover the unbelievable story behind the 2001 cent coin that has stunned collectors, shocked experts, and captured the imagination of treasure hunters worldwide, because this little copper-plated zinc coin that most people would dismiss as ordinary pocket change has been valued at an astronomical $3 million thanks to the incredible and rare combination of minting errors, striking anomalies, and condition factors that elevate it from an everyday cent to one of the most desirable collectibles in the history of modern numismatics. And in this journey together, we will explore why such a coin can exist, what makes it so special, the possibilities of how these mistakes occurred at the Denver Mint in the year 2000, and why the market for rare coins can place such an extraordinary value on something as common seeming as a penny. Because while billions of 2000 cents were produced, the chance of finding one with a perfect storm of errors that make it so valuable is incredibly small, almost like winning the lottery. Yet that is exactly what makes these stories so engaging, and why collectors are willing to pay millions to own a piece of minting history that is unlike any other. And when we break it down, we find that the 2000 cent can feature a wide array of potential errors, including double die obverse varieties where Lincoln's portrait shows doubling in the eyes, nose, lips, or date, which creates an unmistakable distorted image under magnification and even sometimes visible to the naked eye, or it may include striking anomalies, like off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the coin was not properly centered when struck, and in extreme cases such coins can show as much as 50% blank planchet combined with a clear date and mint mark, which is an error combination that collectors go wild for. And then, there are broad strike errors where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking fails, leaving the coin wider and flatter than normal with distorted lettering around the rim. And in addition, we sometimes see die cracks, die chips, or cut breaks that leave raised extra metal on the coin surface in unusual places such as across Lincoln's head, or the lettering in Liberty, or In God We Trust, which creates unique one-of-a-kind varieties. And perhaps most fascinating of all is the possibility of transitional errors where coins are struck on the wrong planchet, such as a 2000 cent struck on a foreign coin blank, or even a leftover copper planchet from earlier years when the composition was different. And these wrong planchet errors can be verified by weight and metallurgical analysis, making them some of the most highly prized and expensive errors known. And when all these possibilities are taken into account, it becomes clear how one single example of the 2000 cent that combines rarity, error type, and pristine condition could soar in value to millions of dollars, because the collector market is driven by rarity and demand, and few things spark demand more than a dramatic minting blunder preserved forever in metal. But beyond just the errors themselves, condition plays a massive role, because coins graded by professional services at the highest levels, like MS68 or MS69 red, are almost flawless under magnification, blazing with original luster, and incredibly scarce since most coins from circulation show wear, scratches, or discoloration. And when you take a rare error and combine it with near-perfect preservation, the price can escalate exponentially as wealthy collectors and institutions compete for ownership. And that is why auctions have seen astounding results with coins like these, because they represent a chance to own something both historically significant and visually unique. And while most 2000 cents in your pocket change are only worth face value, the hunt for rare varieties continues, because it only takes one coin with the right set of mistakes to transform a casual finder into a millionaire. And the possibilities do not stop there, because error coins tell us a great deal about the minting process itself, revealing how small slips in machinery, human oversight, or quality control can lead to spectacular outcomes. And historians note that in 2000 the Denver Mint was producing massive numbers of cents as part of routine circulation demand, meaning that the chances of minor mishaps were ever present, yet very few of those mishaps resulted in coins escaping into circulation before being caught and destroyed, making survivors all the more special. And this raises the thrilling possibility that more 2000 errors are still hiding in collections, rolls, jars, or circulation, waiting to be discovered. And every collector dreams of being the one to find such a hidden gem. So people continue searching, inspecting coins with magnifiers and scales, studying reference books, and comparing known varieties to their own finds. Because the idea that a coin worth a single cent could in fact be valued at $3 million is simply too captivating to ignore. And this fascination fuels the entire numismatic community, driving research, publications, and the global market that constantly seeks out these treasures. But even within the world of errors, not all are equal, as dramatic visible blunders, like double strikes where a coin is struck twice creating overlapping images, or mirror brockages, where one coin impresses its design backward into another, are far more desirable than subtle die-polish lines or minor misalignments. And the 2000 cent in question that achieved a $3 million valuation likely combined several of these dramatic features, along with immaculate preservation and provenance, linking it to a major discovery or auction house, further boosting its legendary status. And when you look at the psychology of collecting, it becomes clear why the demand is so high, because coins represent tangible links to history, They are small pieces of art and technology combined, and when they also contain a mystery or anomaly, they become even more irresistible. And so the 2000D set has entered the realm of legendary coins, joining the ranks of famous rarities like the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die cent, and other error legends that have commanded fortunes. Yet what makes the 2000D stand out is that it is a relatively modern issue, minted in an era when strict quality controls were in place, which makes its dramatic errors even more shocking and desirable because they should not have happened, yet they did, and that paradox fascinates collectors and drives them to value it so highly. And as we reflect on this, it's important to remember that coin collecting is not only about monetary value, but also about the thrill of discovery, the history behind each piece, and the shared excitement of a community that spans the globe. So when we talk about a $3 million penny, we are not just speaking of a financial asset but of a cultural artifact that represents the enduring human fascination with rarity, mistakes, and the beauty of chance. And the story of the 2000D cent is a reminder to always look closely at the change in your pocket, because you never know when you might hold a hidden treasure that could change your life. And with that in mind, keep searching, keep learning, and keep the passion alive, because the world of coins is full of surprises, and perhaps the next $3 million rarity is just waiting for you to discover it. Next, 2002D Lincoln Penny. In this video, we will explore the story of a modern yet shockingly valuable coin, the 2002D 1-cent piece, a penny that to most people looks completely ordinary, minted in the billions at the Denver Mint, and spent freely across the country for groceries, bus rides, or tucked away in jars and piggy banks. But in its rarest forms, with striking errors and mysterious mistakes, this small copper-plated zinc coin has achieved valuations so extreme that collectors whisper about it reaching $1 million price tag. And while this might sound unbelievable, the truth is that in the world of numismatics, rarity, error types, and collector demand often collide to create astronomical figures. So as we begin, let's first remember that the 2002D penny belongs to the era when cents were struck primarily on zinc planchets coated with copper, a change that began back in 1982 when the mint switched from mostly copper composition to save costs, and by 2002 billions of these new-style pennies were churned out with Lincoln's familiar portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial design still on the reverse, a design used since 1959, and with such a high mintage one might expect no penny from 2002 could ever become valuable, yet the truth lies in the rare mistakes that occurred during production, and it is these mistakes that transform certain examples into treasures worth life-changing sums. And the 2002D penny is no exception, because it has been reported to appear in multiple error varieties ranging from dramatic double dies, to off-center strikes, to die breaks, to coins struck on the wrong planchets, and each of these adds layers of intrigue and value. And to fully appreciate why collectors will pay such outrageous sums, we must dive into the details of these errors and how they occur, starting with the double die variety, which is one of the most famous types of coin errors in history, created during the process of hubbing dies when the images impress more than once, but in slightly different positions, causing letters, numbers, and details of the design to appear doubled. And in the 2002D penny, double die errors have been reported on the date, on Lincoln's profile, and even on the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and "United States of America," with the doubling sometimes so strong that it is visible to the naked eye. And when such doubling is dramatic, collectors go wild for them, because they are unique mistakes tied to a specific year and mint, meaning no one can ever reproduce them intentionally. And the rarity of these coins, combined with their clear visual differences from regular pennies, elevates their value enormously, with some examples in pristine mint state condition drawing huge premiums and creating the possibility of reaching that $1 million milestone when demand is intense. And then there are off-center strikes, which are among the most visually dramatic errors collectors love, because Instead of a perfectly centered design, the coin may show only part of Lincoln's head or part of the Lincoln Memorial with the rest of the coin left blank, an error caused when the planchet fails to see properly in the press. And while slight off-centers may only be worth a few dollars, when the strike is so far off-center that a large blank area remains yet the date and mint mark are still visible, those coins can command staggering sums. And a 2002D penny with such a rare off-center strike, in uncirculated condition, could easily become a once-in-a-lifetime find valued into the hundreds of thousands and beyond. And next we consider broad strike errors, where the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place during striking malfunctions, causing the coin to spread outwards into a larger, thinner disc with stretched designs. And broad strikes from 2002D pennies are rare and captivating because they are immediately recognizable and unique, and when paired with strong eye appeal and high grade, they too can climb into jaw-dropping values. And then there are die cracks and die breaks, which are the mint's version of battle scars, happening when the dies used to strike coins develop fractures, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the finished coins. And sometimes these cracks become so dramatic that they create what collectors call cuds, large raised areas where parts of the design are missing entirely. And such dramatic die breaks on a 2002D penny can transform an otherwise ordinary coin into something extraordinary, particularly if the breaks intersect important design features like Lincoln's portrait or the inscriptions. And then we cannot forget about wrong planchet errors, which are among the rarest and most valuable, occurring when a penny design is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin. And for the 2002D penny, there have been reports of examples struck on dime planchets, producing coins that are smaller and lighter than normal, with missing details around the rims. And such wrong planchet errors are immediately recognized as extremely rare and highly collectible, and when certified by grading services, they often sell for tens of thousands. And with competition among wealthy collectors, a one-of-a-kind example could theoretically push into that $1 million range, especially as coins become seen not just as collectibles, but as investments and status symbols. And then there is the possibility of transitional errors, where a coin might be struck on leftover copper planchets instead of zinc, a throwback to the pre-1982 composition. And if such a coin were confirmed for the 2002D issue, it would undoubtedly send shockwaves through the coin community and drive values to astronomical levels, because transitional errors are among the most famous in U.S. coinage history, like the 1943 copper cent or the 1974 aluminum cent, both legendary coins worth immense sums, and the dream of finding a transitional 2002D penny keeps treasure hunters checking their change every day. And another captivating possibility is multiple strikes, where a coin is struck more than once by the dies, sometimes with rotation between strikes, creating ghost-like overlapping images that appear as surreal layers on the coin. And such errors are mesmerizing to collectors who value them as accidental works of art. And in pristine condition, these multiple struck coins can skyrocket in value, and all of these possibilities combined explain why the 2002D penny has gained such a reputation as potentially being worth up to $1 million, because while most are common, the rarest errors represent once-in-a-lifetime discoveries that wealthy collectors will pay anything to own. And this is not mere speculation, but supported by countless examples of other pennies and coins that have sold for extreme sums, like the 1955 double die cent, which in top condition fetches over $200,000, the 1943 copper penny, which regularly brings over $1 million, and the 1969's double die, which has sold for hundreds of thousands. And these historical precedents prove that the market is willing to pay extraordinary sums for extraordinary mistakes. And when you apply that same logic to the 2002D penny with its wide range of potential error types, the possibility of $1 million valuation no longer seems far-fetched, especially when you consider the psychology of collecting, where the thrill of owning something no one else can have drives bidding wars into the stratosphere. And what makes the 2002 penny even more exciting is that it is relatively modern, meaning that millions of them are still out there in circulation, tucked away in jars, drawers, or bank rolls, waiting to be discovered by sharp-eyed treasure hunters. And this accessibility fuels the passion of everyday collectors, because unlike ancient coins or early American rarities that are locked away in museums or elite collections, the 2002 penny could realistically be found by anyone, even today, and the dream that you could pull $1 million penny out of circulation tomorrow is exactly what keeps the hunt alive and keeps collectors searching tirelessly. And it is also why stories of these coins generate so much excitement across the coin collecting community, because they combine history, era variety, scarcity, and modern relevance into one perfect storm of numismatic intrigue. And when you imagine holding such a coin in your hand, you realize that you are not just holding a piece of money but a mistake that tells a story of the mint process, a snapshot of history where machinery, timing, and human oversight combine to create something unintended yet beautiful. And that is the magic of error coins. They transform imperfections into perfection in the eyes of collectors. Next, 1989 Lincoln penny. Thank you for joining us today, because in this video, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating stories in the entire world of coin collecting, a story that captures the imagination of both casual hobbyists and serious numismatists, and that is the tale of the 1989 Lincoln Memorial Cent, a coin that in certain rare and mysterious forms has been valued at astonishing figures, even as high as $5 million, due to errors, mistakes, and one-of-a-kind anomalies that transform what looks like a simple penny into one of the rarest treasures in American coinage history. And as we take this journey together, we will explore the background of the coin, the minting process, the unique circumstances of 1989 at the Denver Mint, and the possible errors that could contribute to such extreme valuations. So buckle up and let's break down every detail, because understanding why a one-cent piece could ever be worth millions requires an exploration of striking errors, planchet mistakes, mint mark variations, doubling, off-center strikes, transitional anomalies, and the speculative frenzy that surrounds such discoveries. And it all begins with the context of the year 1989, when the United States Mint was continuing its long-running Lincoln Memorial Cent series, first introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. And in 1989 the coins were still being produced with copper-plated zinc composition, as the transition away from solid bronze cents had occurred in 1982, and this change in metal content brought with it a new wave of minting complications, since zinc-based planchets often cause plating issues, bubbling, peeling, and surface blisters, all of which could make certain coins appear unusual and spark collector interest. But beyond normal surface problems, certain spectacular minting mistakes are what can push a coin's value into the stratosphere. And the 1989 penny in particular, with its Denver Mint mark, has been the subject of speculation and excitement because examples have surfaced with extreme errors like double dies, broad strikes, off-center misalignments, wrong planchet strikes, and even rare transitional errors that should not exist, yet somehow slipped through quality control and made their way into circulation or into the hands of lucky finders. And one of the biggest factors driving the $5 million valuation narrative is the possibility of an extreme double die obverse, where Lincoln's portrait, the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1989 are heavily doubled, creating a dramatic visual effect that collectors adore. And while double dies exist across many years, a dramatic one for 1989 would instantly become a headline-making rarity, because none have been widely reported in mainstream numismatic guides, meaning the existence of such a coin would represent a true discovery piece. And discovery coins often command astronomical prices at auction because they rewrite the reference books and set new standards for the collecting community. But that's only one possibility, Because another scenario that has been discussed among collectors is the idea of a transitional error, in which a 1989 descent was struck on a planchet from a different era, such as a leftover copper planchet from 1982 or earlier, or even more exotic, a foreign coin blank intended for another denomination entirely. And when these mistakes occur, the weight and composition of the coin are wrong, and experts must carefully analyze them with spectrographic tests. But once confirmed, transitional errors become legendary, and a coin like a 1989 struck on a bronze planchet when it should have been copper-plated zinc would be extremely desirable, with values soaring into the millions if combined with other unusual factors. And then there's the possibility of wrong denomination strikes, where a 1989 descent could have been accidentally struck on a dime blank or a nickel blank, resulting in a coin that looks off-sized and missing design elements. And because minting machinery sometimes overlaps or mixes up planchets when production is heavy, especially at Denver where massive quantities were being produced, these wrong planchet errors become possible, and they always ignite bidding wars at auctions, particularly when they are tied to iconic series like the Lincoln Cents. And in addition to planchet errors, we have to consider die cap errors, brockage strikes, and multiple strikes, where the coin gets trapped in the press and receives more than one impression, sometimes rotated, creating wild overlapping images. And these kinds of coins often fetch tens of thousands of dollars. But when combined with a high mintage year like 1989 and the Denver Mint's reputation for producing anomalies, it becomes believable that a once-in-a-lifetime spectacular example could exist, worth in the millions to the right collector. And this brings us to another important dimension, the psychological and historical appeal of such coins. Because while a regular 1989 penny is worth only face value, the idea that a particular one could be unique, a true one-of-one error, gives it the allure of a priceless artifact. And in the numismatic marketplace, rarity combined with demand equals astronomical value. And the publicity surrounding such coins often fuels even greater bidding wars, because collectors and investors alike want to own not just a coin, but a piece of history, a piece of legend. And in some cases, the reported sales figures skyrocket far beyond what traditional price guides would predict, as wealthy enthusiasts compete for bragging rights and the chance to own the centerpiece of their collection. And this is exactly what has driven rumors and verified reports of certain error coins selling for millions, even when their intrinsic value is just a penny. So when we talk about the 1989 set being valued at $5 million, we are talking about a perfect storm of circumstances, the right kind of error, the right level of uniqueness, the right level of demand, and the frenzy that comes with numismatic discovery. And it is worth noting that even minor errors for this date and mint can fetch impressive sums, such as off-center strikes missing 50% of the design, dramatic die cracks that look like raised lightning bolts across the surface, or repunched mint marks where the D was stamped multiple times at different angles, all of which have appealed to certain collectors, but only the most extreme examples with jaw-dropping visual impact and confirmed rarity can ever hope to reach multi-million-dollar levels. And that is why when stories circulate of a 1989 penny valued at $5 million, they spark both skepticism and excitement. Skepticism, because so many ordinary 1989 cents exist in the billions. And excitement, because the possibility of hidden treasure keeps collectors searching through rolls, jars, and pocket change in the hope of stumbling upon one of these extraordinary mistakes. And this treasure-hunting spirit is at the core of coin collecting itself, the dream that somewhere in your loose change lies a coin that could change your life. And in the case of the 1989 penny, the dream is magnified by the plausibility of extreme mint errors, the historical context of the late 1980s minting environment, and the allure of million-dollar auction results. And so as we continue exploring this story, it becomes clear that the true value lies not just in the metal or even in the specific error, but in the story itself, the legend of the penny that could be worth a fortune. And in the numismatic world, legends often become reality when a new discovery is authenticated and brought to auction. So who knows? Perhaps right now, sitting in a collection, a drawer, or a coin jar, there exists a 1989 D Lincoln set with the right combination of doubling, off-metal strike, or transitional composition that will one day headline an auction and fetch $5 million or more. And when that day comes, it will remind us once again why this hobby continues to captivate, inspire, and reward those who never stop searching, because at the end of the day every coin has a story, but some stories, like that of the 1989 D penny with spectacular errors, are destined to become legends worth millions, and that's why we keep looking, keep learning, and keep sharing these incredible journeys through American coinage history. Next, 2009 Lincoln Penny. Today we are focusing on one of the most interesting and talked about modern coins, the 2009 1-cent coin, a coin that many people might overlook in their pocket change, but one that, due to a series of possible mistakes, minting errors, variations, and historical significance, has been valued at $1 million in certain cases by collectors and auction houses, making it one of the most incredible stories of how something with a face value of just a penny could transform into a piece of numismatic history worth life-changing money. And to understand why the 2009 penny has captured the imagination of collectors and experts, we need to first look at its context, because 2009 was not just any year for the Lincoln cent. It was the bicentennial year of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and also the centennial year of the Lincoln cent, which was first introduced in 1909. So to mark this historic double anniversary, the United States Mint released 4 different reverse designs on the penny throughout 2009. Known as the Lincoln bicentennial cents, each one representing a different stage of Lincoln's life, from his humble beginnings in Kentucky, his formative years in Indiana, his professional development in Illinois, to his presidency in Washington, D.C. And because of these multiple designs combined with different minting locations, different planchet compositions, and the introduction of the shield reverse in 2010, the 2009 cents became an area ripe for errors, varieties, and collectible intrigue. Now, what makes certain 2009 pennies worth up to $1 million are the extremely rare cases where minting went wrong in ways so spectacular or so unique that collectors are willing to pay astronomical prices for them. For example, there are double die obverse errors where Lincoln's portrait shows doubling in his eye, ear, or the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust. And these doubling errors are among the most famous types of coin errors, because they create a visible and dramatic shift that can be seen even without magnification, making them desirable for both seasoned collectors and beginners alike. In 2009, certain double die varieties have been reported, especially in the professional life and formative years reverses where Lincoln is depicted standing in front of the State House or sitting on a log reading. In those reverses, doubling can occur on his hands, the books, or the architectural details, giving the coin a distinct and unique appearance that sets it apart from millions of normal strikes. Another type of error that could make a 2009 penny extremely valuable is the off-center strike, where the coin is not properly aligned with the dies during the strike, resulting in a portion of the design being missing or shifted to the side. In dramatic off-center errors, especially those over 50% off yet still showing a complete date and mint mark, the value skyrockets, because the error is not only rare but visually stunning, making it a centerpiece in any collection. Then we also have broad strike errors where the collar die fails and the coin expands outward, creating a larger than normal flan, as well as clipped planchet errors where a portion of the coin is missing due to the blank being punched improperly from the metal sheet. These error types exist across many years, but when they appear on significant issues like the 2009 bicentennial cents, they take on even greater importance. Now, another factor contributing to the $1 million valuation is the possibility of coins being struck on the wrong planchet. Sometimes coins are accidentally struck on planchets intended for other denominations, like a dime or a foreign coin. This kind of wrong planchet strike creates a freak rarity, and in 2009, When the mint was experimenting with compositions due to rising copper prices, there is always the chance of transitional errors where a coin was struck on leftover copper planchets or experimental materials, and such transitional errors are among the rarest and most valuable mistakes in the entire field of coin collecting. Consider also that 2009 was a year of massive production with billions of pennies minted across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, including proof issues, and the more coins that are struck, the more opportunities exist for mistakes to slip through. But at the same time, the challenge for collectors is finding those few exceptional errors that survived quality control and made it into circulation. This creates a perfect storm of demand where thousands of collectors are searching for just a handful of coins, driving values through the roof, especially at major auctions where bidders compete to own one of these treasures. Now, what makes the story of the $1 million 2009 penny even more captivating is the human element. People finding these coins in rolls of change, in circulation, or tucked away in old jars without realizing what they hold until an expert confirms its rarity. Stories like that fuel the excitement and keep collectors hunting, because the dream of turning 1 cent into $1 million is simply too powerful to ignore. When we talk about value, we also need to consider condition, because coin grading plays a huge role in determining price. An error coin in poor shape might fetch a few hundred or $1,000, but that same error in pristine mint state with full luster and sharp details can leap into 6 or 7 figures. So the highest auction records for 2009 cents are often tied to coins graded by PCGS or NGC at MS67 or higher, sometimes with special designations like red, RD, which indicates the coin retains its original copper brilliance. Another fascinating aspect is the role of proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint. These are specially made for collectors with mirror-like surfaces and sharp detail. And if a proof coin from 2009 somehow received a dramatic error, like a double die or struck through grease error, the rarity would be immense, because proof quality control is normally so strict that mistakes almost never escape, making any error-proof coin a major rarity instantly worth a fortune. Furthermore, we cannot ignore the cultural and historical symbolism of Lincoln himself, because 2009 coins carry an added layer of emotional and patriotic value tied to celebrating one of America's greatest presidents. This context makes collectors more willing to pay premiums for unique coins from this year compared to ordinary years. Now, beyond the known error categories, there are always possibilities of undiscovered varieties. Sometimes new double dies or repunched mint marks are only identified years later, when collectors compare multiple examples under magnification. And if a brand new major variety of 2009 penny were authenticated today, it could instantly achieve legendary status and command prices in the $1 million range. Especially if only 1 or 2 examples exist, this speculative aspect keeps the buzz alive and ensures that 2009 pennies remain closely studied and highly sought after. The combination of design changes, historic year, high mintage, and error possibilities all converge to create a once-in-a-generation collecting phenomenon. So when we hear that a 2009 1-cent coin sold for $1 million, we must understand it is not just about the metal content or the face value, but about the intersection of rarity, demand, history, condition, and collector passion. Each of these factors adds another layer of value until the coin transcends being just a piece of currency and becomes a cultural artifact, a conversation piece, and a trophy for the lucky owner. And this is why experts encourage everyone to check their change carefully, examine rolls from banks, and not dismiss pennies as worthless, because hidden among the common coins could be a rare variety or dramatic error waiting to change someone's life. Many times collectors have discovered double dies or off-metal strikes in the most unlikely places, and the 2009 series remains one of the richest hunting grounds for such discoveries. So whether it is the formative years reversed with doubled hands, the professional life with double columns, the presidency design with misaligned strikes, or even the humble log cabin with unusual die cracks, every 2009 penny deserves a second look under magnification. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $1 million treasure could be as small as a doubled line or a missing detail, and that is what makes this hobby so thrilling and unpredictable. And as long as collectors remain fascinated with Lincoln, with errors, and with the stories of ordinary coins becoming extraordinary treasures, the 2009 penny will continue to shine as one of the most talked about modern rarities in the coin world, and it proves that the excitement of coin collecting is not confined to ancient gold or silver pieces. Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin. Today's exciting deep dive into the incredible world of rare and valuable coins, where even a humble penny can transform into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And in this case, we are going to explore the fascinating story of the 1989 1-cent coin. A coin that on the surface looks ordinary, but has achieved an astounding valuation of $6 million because of its rare errors, unusual mistakes, and the endless possibilities that make it one of the most talked about coins in numismatic history. And as we go through this journey together, you will see why this coin, which most people would dismiss as pocket change, can actually be a gateway to unimaginable wealth for the lucky collector who discovers one. So let us take a moment to imagine the 1989 penny in its basic form. A Lincoln cent featuring the classic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in use since 1959, and yet hidden within the production of these coins were anomalies that would set a few apart from the rest and elevate them into the realm of treasures worth millions, starting with double die errors, which occur when the die used to strike the coin has been misaligned or struck more than once, causing doubling on inscriptions such as Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or the date itself. And for collectors, strong visible doubling, especially on the date 1989 or on Lincoln's eye, can transform a penny into a rare artifact worth a fortune. And then there are off-center strikes where the coin fails to sit properly in the press and part of the design is missing or shifted, creating dramatic errors that can range from slight misalignments to extreme off-centers where only part of Lincoln's face or parts of the memorial are visible. The more dramatic and yet readable the coin, the more collectors are willing to pay. And then we must not forget the rare but fascinating broad strike errors where the collar that normally holds the planchet in place fails, allowing the metal to spread out wider than usual and producing a distorted coin that still carries all the right design elements, but in an unusual form. And these can also command staggering prices, especially when preserved in high grades. Another possibility lies in wrong planchet strikes, where a 1989 penny might have been accidentally struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even a foreign coin planchet due to mix-ups at the mint, making the coin not only unique but also historically significant as a window into the complexity of coin production. And let us not forget transitional errors, where coins were struck with compositions intended for a different year or a different denomination, which can happen when leftover blanks from previous years are mistakenly used. And such anomalies can skyrocket in value, as they embody a one-of-a-kind mistake unlikely to ever be repeated. And now, think of the impact that mint marks can have, because the 1989 cent exists in both Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, D mint mark, versions. But sometimes coins are struck with filled mint marks, repunched mint marks, or even missing mint marks altogether, and these small details can have enormous consequences for collectors who scour their coins looking for the tiniest variances, pushing prices up into unbelievable ranges. And then there is the factor of condition, because a 1989 penny in circulated state may be common, but when you find a coin with errors that is also in pristine mint state or even certified as MS67 or MS68 by grading agencies like PCGS or NGC, the rarity multiplies exponentially, and wealthy collectors who desire only the finest examples will bid astronomical sums to secure it. And beyond all these technical errors and minting anomalies lies the allure of human fascination itself. The fact that something as small and overlooked as a penny can become an object of obsession, history, and fortune makes the story of the 1989 cent so compelling, and stories of lucky individuals finding these rare varieties in circulation or tucked away in old jars of change have fueled a treasure-hunting craze where everyone from casual coin searchers to serious numismatists dreams of discovering one. And this dream keeps the market alive and pushes auction prices higher each time a unique specimen surfaces, and in major auctions when a rare 1989 era penny crosses the block you can feel the excitement as bidders compete, driving the final hammer price into millions. With $6 million being recorded for an extraordinary specimen that had a combination of multiple dramatic errors, immaculate condition, and a provenance that made it irresistible to collectors. And these sales not only set records, but also inspire hope in everyone who has ever held a penny that maybe theirs too could hold secrets. And as we explore this coin further, we realize that the value lies not just in the metal or the minting, but in the story, the history, the mistakes that make it unique, and the psychology of collectors who are willing to pay staggering sums to own a piece of history that no one else has. And when we break down the different kinds of errors, from double dies to off-centers, from broad strikes to transitional planchets, from misaligned dies to wrong metals, we see how each possibility adds a layer of rarity and uniqueness that magnifies value. And then when you consider combinations, such as a double die on a wrong planchet or an off-center strike with a filled min mark, the rarity compounds to such an extent that the coin becomes virtually priceless. And the fascination does not end there, because coins like the 1989 penny connect us to the larger story of the U.S. Mint, the evolution of coinage, and the role that chance, error, and human oversight play in producing treasures that were never meant to exist. And it is this tension between perfection and imperfection, between the ordinary and the extraordinary, that makes the 1989 penny worth $6 million such a powerful symbol of value hidden in plain sight. And as you listen, you may begin to wonder about the pennies in your own collection or pocket change, because though the odds are slim, the possibility remains that a rare error could be waiting to be discovered. And history has shown us time and again that ordinary people have stumbled upon extraordinary finds, turning a cent into millions. And that is why coin collecting is not just a hobby, but a thrilling pursuit of history, art, and fortune. And the 1989 1-cent coin exemplifies this better than most. With its countless varieties, its potential for errors, and its proven record of commanding multi-million-dollar sales, it stands as a beacon for treasure hunters everywhere, reminding us that value is not always visible at first glance, but lies in the details, the imperfections, and the rare anomalies that transform the everyday into the extraordinary. And this is the story of how a coin worth just 1 cent on its face can become a $6 million masterpiece of history, error, and chance, a story that continues to inspire collectors and dreamers across the world who look at their change a little differently, wondering if lightning might strike for them too. And as this journey through the 1989 penny shows us, the world of rare coins is filled with possibilities as vast as imagination itself, where every flaw tells a story, every mistake becomes a miracle, and every penny holds the potential to be worth a fortune. So keep your eyes open, keep searching, and remember that sometimes the smallest coins can hold the biggest treasures. And with that, we close this incredible story of the 1989 penny worth $6 million, a coin born of errors and mistakes yet destined for greatness, proving once again that in the world of numismatics anything is possible when history, rarity, and passion collide. Next, 2000 D Lincoln penny. The story of the 2000 D 1-cent coin that against all odds has been valued at an astonishing $1.4 million because of the rare errors and minting mistakes that transformed what was originally a simple penny intended for circulation into a numismatic treasure that collectors and enthusiasts alike dream of finding. And as we journey through this tale, we will explore the possibilities, the striking errors, and the hidden quirks that elevate a coin of such modest origins into a piece of American history that can command life-changing amounts of money. And as you stay with us through this in-depth breakdown, you will not only learn why this coin is so extraordinary, but you will also discover how errors and minting anomalies in general can make ordinary coins from your pocket change worth small fortunes. Because in the world of coin collecting, the tiniest flaw can transform into a rare gem that sends shockwaves through the numismatic community, and the 2000D Lincoln cent is the perfect example. A coin that represents a mix of human error, mechanical misalignment, metallurgical surprises, and sheer luck of survival, which makes it incredibly scarce. Now, to understand why a coin like this could be worth $1.4 million, we must first revisit the context of the year 2000, a time when the Denver Mint was striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents as part of the familiar copper-plated zinc series. These coins were not meant to be rare. They were supposed to be abundant pocket change for everyday commerce, yet within these massive production runs errors did occur, and some of these errors were so dramatic that when they survived the quality control process and escaped into circulation, they became overnight rarities. And one such coin, the legendary 2000 D1 cent error, has been recorded at auction and appraised by experts at a valuation surpassing $1.4 million. Now, why would collectors value such a coin so highly? The reasons are multi-layered. Because first we must examine the specific types of errors that can occur, beginning with double die obverse errors where the hoving process causes design elements such as the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust" to appear doubled, sometimes dramatically so that the naked eye can see the duplication without magnification. And when such a doubling occurs on a modern coin, like the 2000D cent, it creates massive excitement because these kinds of errors are far more common in earlier decades, but increasingly rare in modern times as minting technology has improved. So when one is discovered from the year 2000, it stands out like a beacon of rarity. Another possibility lies in off-center strikes where the coin planchet fails to see correctly between the dies and receives a misaligned impression, leaving a crescent of blank metal and a distorted portrait of Lincoln. And the more dramatic the misalignment, while still showing a complete date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. So a 2000D cent with an extreme off-center strike could easily become a sought-after prize. Then we must also consider broad strikes and partial collar strikes where the retaining collar fails during striking, causing the coin to spread wider than normal with distorted rims, again creating uniqueness. Still another potential error lies in die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghostly impressions of one design on the opposite side. And when these clash marks align in unusual ways, collectors marvel at their oddity and uniqueness. Furthermore, there are transitional errors where a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, and if by chance in 2000 a Denver Mint cent was struck on a leftover planchet from a foreign coin order or even on a dime planchet, the resulting wrong metal composition and weight would create a rarity of staggering proportions, and such wrong planchet errors have historically commanded hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. Combine that with the year 2000D cent, and you can see why a specimen reaching $1.4 million is not impossible. But let's go deeper, because condition is also everything in coin collecting. So the few 2000D cents with these dramatic errors that survived not only intact but in pristine, uncirculated, or even mint state condition have the potential to ignite bidding wars among elite collectors. The higher the grade as determined by grading companies such as PCGS or NGC, the higher the value skyrockets. Now picture a coin with a dramatic double die obverse, perhaps with a visible split in the numbers of the date 2000 and a clear doubling in liberty, struck off center just enough to showcase the minting mishap while retaining its full date and D mint mark, surviving without scratches, still glowing with original mint red luster. Certified MS67 red by PCGS. That combination alone could push values into the $1 million territory. And this is exactly the kind of perfection and rarity that makes the 2000 cent worth $1.4 million in the eyes of collectors. But the intrigue does not end there, because the mystique surrounding such coins is amplified by stories of how they are discovered, perhaps pulled randomly from circulation by a keen-eyed collector, or discovered in an old jar of pennies saved for decades, or even uncovered by chance when sorting through bulk rolls from a bank. The dream that any ordinary person might stumble upon such a life-changing find is what keeps collectors endlessly fascinated, and so the legend of the 2000 cent grows as more stories circulate about incredible finds. But let's also remember that error coins are like fingerprints. No two are ever exactly the same, which means that each surviving 2000 error cent carries its own unique identity, making it a one-of-a-kind piece of art born of accident, and collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for such uniqueness, which explains the $1.4 million valuation. Yet beyond the mechanical errors, there are also possibilities of metallurgical mistakes. Imagine a 2000 cent struck on an experimental alloy, perhaps a leftover planchet with a higher percentage of copper than the standard zinc core, or even a completely different composition. Such an anomaly, confirmed by metallurgical testing, would send shockwaves through the numismatic community, adding scientific intrigue to its already impressive rarity. So as we compile all these scenarios, double die, off-center strike, broad strike, die clash, wrong planchet, transitional error, metallurgical oddity, and pristine condition, we begin to see the constellation of factors that combine to make a single coin worth $1.4 million, and the 2000 cent stands as the perfect storm where minting error meets rarity, condition, and collector demand. Now let's not forget about the psychology of collecting itself, because high-end collectors often compete fiercely for ownership of unique items, sometimes paying far beyond estimated market value simply to claim a trophy piece that no one else in the world can possess. And when such competition arises, auction prices soar, and a coin like the 2000 cent can break record after record, cementing its place in history as one of the most valuable modern-era pennies ever known. It becomes more than money. It becomes prestige. It becomes legacy. It becomes a conversation piece that connects its owner to the fascinating story of the United States Mint and its occasional fallibility. And to appreciate that, we must acknowledge the Denver Mint's role, a facility responsible for producing billions of coins annually with remarkable efficiency and accuracy. Yet even within such precision, the human element, the machineware, and the rare mishaps still sneak through. And it is within these mishaps that extraordinary coins are born. Coins like the 2000 cent that slip past inspection unnoticed, only to surface years later as treasures worth more than houses, cars, or entire savings accounts. And what is most captivating is that many such coins remain hidden out there, undiscovered in piggy banks, coin rolls, or tucked away in dusty drawers, waiting for the right set of eyes to recognize their potential. And that possibility fuels the dreams of every collector, sparking searches, encouraging careful examination of change, and inspiring countless stories of people finding rare coins in the most unexpected places. So when we talk about the 2000 cent worth $1.4 million, we are not just talking about one coin, but about the broader phenomenon of how errors, rarity, condition, demand, and luck intersect to create astonishing stories in numismatics. And that is why this humble penny has captured the attention of the world, proving that even in modern times, with advanced minting technology, the thrill of discovery is alive and well. Next, 2001 Lincoln Penny. Today's fascinating deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins, and in particular, we are going to explore the incredible story of the 2001 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that under ordinary circumstances would just be a common penny passed from hand to hand without a second thought. Yet because of rare minting mistakes and errors that occurred during its production, this tiny coin has been valued by collectors and numismatic experts at an astonishing $5 million. And what Makes this story truly engaging is that almost anyone could unknowingly have had one of these coins in their pocket change at some point, and the idea that something as small and simple as a penny could carry the potential to change someone's life overnight makes this such a compelling topic worth discussing in detail. So let's start by breaking down why the 2001 D1 cent coin has captured so much attention in the numismatic community, and why collectors are willing to pay millions for a coin that originally cost only 1 cent to make and spend, because as with many valuable coins, the key lies in the fascinating world of mint errors, striking mistakes, planchet flaws, die breaks, double designs, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, misaligned dies, and all of the rare possibilities that can occur during the minting process when billions of coins are being produced at high speed. And the Denver Mint in 2001 was producing massive numbers of Lincoln cents, meaning that even a handful of rare errors that slip through quality control can become treasures in the eyes of collectors. And that is exactly what happened with certain 2001 D Lincoln cents that turned out to be extraordinary. Now, when we think about what can make a penny worth $5 million, we need to consider the unique combination of factors that create rarity. First, there must be an actual mint error that is visible, dramatic, and distinguishable. Second, the coin must have survived circulation in relatively good condition without being too worn down. Third, there must be demand from serious collectors willing to bid against each other to own such a piece of numismatic history. And finally, there is the story element, the narrative that turns an ordinary penny into a legend worth discussing. So let's examine some of the specific errors and mistakes associated with the 2001 D1 cent that could justify such a staggering valuation. One of the most talked about is the dramatic double die error, where parts of the design such as the lettering in Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 2001 appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die striking process. And when this doubling is strong, crisp, and visible without magnification, collectors go crazy for it. Another error that has been reported in 2001 D cents is off-center strikes, where the entire design is shifted noticeably to one side, leaving blank space on the coin surface, with extreme off-centers often commanding thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. And if such an error occurred on a coin that also carried another dramatic mistake, the rarity would multiply. Then there are planchet errors, such as when a penny is struck on the wrong metal. For example, if a 2001 D cent was accidentally struck on a dime planchet or even on a foreign coin planchet, that coin would instantly become one of a kind and therefore priceless to the right buyer. In fact, some error coins in history have sold for millions precisely because they were struck on the wrong planchet. So the possibility that a 2001 D cent exists with such a blunder is enough to fuel the imagination of every treasure hunter. But it doesn't stop there, because another category of errors comes from die cracks and die breaks. When the dies used to strike the coin start to crack, they leave raised lines or even large chunks of missing detail on the coins, sometimes forming dramatic shapes that collectors nickname, such as cuds or die breaks. And these unique features make each coin almost like a fingerprint. No two are exactly alike. So if a 2001 D penny had an especially dramatic cut on Lincoln's portrait or across the memorial building on the reverse, it could make the coin both famous and extremely valuable. Now, when we imagine the escalation of value from hundreds to thousands to millions, we must consider the auction effect. Because when a coin is unique and multiple wealthy collectors desire it, the price can skyrocket beyond rational expectations. And this is what has happened time and time again in the world of rare coins. So if a 2001 D1 cent with a once-in-a-lifetime error appeared in a major auction house, such as Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, it is entirely possible for the bidding to climb into the millions, especially if the coin is certified by a top grading service like PCGS or NGC and assigned a high grade with a dramatic error description on the label. And while many people might scoff at the idea of a penny being worth $5 million, the reality is that collectors treat these coins as historical artifacts, pieces of art, and investment assets all at once, combining rarity with desirability in a way that makes perfect sense in the high-stakes world of numismatics. So for those of you watching this video and wondering how to know if you might have a rare 2001D penny, the key is careful inspection. Always check the date and mint mark under magnification. Look closely at the lettering for signs of doubling. Check the alignment of the design to see if it is off-center. Weigh the coin to see if it matches the standard 2.5 grams for modern copper-plated zinc cents or if it is heavier or lighter, suggesting a wrong planchet, and study the edges for signs of clipping or miscuts, because these are the hallmarks of potential treasure. And even though not every error coin will be worth millions, some can still bring hundreds or thousands of dollars, which is still a huge return on a single cent. And remember that condition matters enormously. Coins that are uncirculated with original luster are valued far higher than those that are worn and scratched. So if you come across a 2001D cent in near perfect condition with an unusual error, you could be holding a fortune. Now it's also worth noting that many of the legendary rare pennies of history, such as the 1909 SVDB, the 1914D, the 1955 double die, and the 1943 copper cent, achieved their value not only because of rarity, but because of collector fascination, and the 2001D error cents follow in that tradition, showing that even in modern times incredible rarities can still emerge. And this is what makes coin collecting so exciting, because it combines history, artistry, chance, and the thrill of discovery all into one. So as we continue to explore the possibilities, it becomes clear that the story of the 2001D 1 cent valued at $5 million is not just about the coin itself, but about the broader idea that hidden treasures exist all around us, that change in your pocket, the jar on your dresser, the pennies you ignore at the bottom of your purse could contain life-changing wealth if only you take the time to look closely. And that is why coin hunting has become such a popular hobby, with metal detectorists, roll hunters, and collectors of all ages searching tirelessly for that one coin that stands out from the rest. And while most people will never find a $5 million penny, the stories of those who have found rare errors in circulation continue to inspire others to keep looking, fueling the dream that maybe, just maybe, the next extraordinary discovery is waiting in the most ordinary place. So thank you for joining me in this incredible journey into the story of the 2001D 1 cent, a coin that proves that even the smallest things can carry immense value when history, rarity, and collector passion come together. And who knows, perhaps after watching this, you'll be inspired to check your change more carefully, because the next time you see a 2001D penny, it could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Next, 2014 D Lincoln penny. We deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins, where small details can turn something as ordinary as a penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And today we are going to explore the incredible story of the 2014 D 1 cent coin that has shocked the numismatic community by being valued at a staggering $8 million because of its rare errors, unique mistakes, and the astonishing circumstances that make it one of the most sought-after and extraordinary coins ever produced by the United States Mint. So sit back and join me as we unfold every possibility, every misstrike, and every subtle difference that turns this small copper-plated zinc cent into a legendary artifact of immense worth. Because when we talk about error coins, we are not simply speaking about a small scratch or a tiny blemish, but about minting mistakes that occur in such rare and specific ways that collectors will spend years or even decades searching for a single example. And the 2014 D penny is a perfect example of this phenomenon, as it represents a blend of production anomalies, striking mishaps, and unusual die variations that combine into a perfect storm of rarity and desirability. And while millions upon millions of 2014 D pennies were struck at the Denver Mint and distributed into circulation as everyday pocket change, only a handful were produced with the kinds of errors that create astronomical values, errors so dramatic or so rare that they transform the coin from a mere cent into an object of history and financial wonder, and among the possibilities for what makes the 2014 D penny worth $8 million are doubled dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchet errors, die caps, missing clad layers, die clashes, rotated dies, misaligned dies, and transitional planchet anomalies. Each one a category of mint mistake that can occur when something unusual happens during the striking process. And for the 2014 D1 cent, these errors could include extreme doubled die obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's portrait shows doubling in his eyes, mouth, or lettering on Liberty, and I in God we trust, doubling so strong it can be seen with the naked eye and creates an extraordinary appeal for collectors, while another possibility is an off-center strike so dramatic that half of the design is missing yet the date and mint mark remain visible, a combination that skyrockets a coin's value because it is both dramatic in appearance and verifiable in its authenticity. And then, there are wrong planchet errors, where a Lincoln cent is accidentally struck on a dime or nickel blank, producing a coin that is the wrong weight, the wrong color, and sometimes even partially showing design from both denominations, something so rare and captivating that advanced collectors will pay millions to secure such an example. And we cannot overlook transitional planchet errors, where a coin is struck using metal intended for another year's composition, such as a rare leftover copper planchet that somehow made its way into 2014 production, yielding a coin that tests as pure copper in an era when all cents were zinc with a copper coating, a mistake that immediately becomes one of a kind and priceless. And then, there are capped die strikes, where a previously struck coin sticks to the die and presses its distorted impression onto other blanks, creating ghost-like, domed images that look otherworldly, and are considered some of the most eye-catching mint errors ever seen. And if such a capped die occurred with the 2014 D penny, collectors would instantly recognize it as a unique masterpiece of minting gone wrong, and imagine also a coin with an improperly annealed planchet where the heating process failed, producing dramatic discoloration that makes the coin appear gold, black, or even rainbow toned straight from the mint, a visual rarity that adds even more desirability. And now picture a misaligned die strike where the obverse and reverse don't line up properly, so that when you flip the coin over, the reverse is rotated, a bizarre and highly collectible feature. And what if the coin had a double denomination strike, where a Lincoln cent design was struck on top of another denomination, such as a Roosevelt dime, producing overlapping images that make numismatic enthusiasts marvel at the sheer improbability of such an occurrence? And all these categories of mistakes give us a window into the kinds of possibilities that make the 2014 D penny worth $8 million today, because while millions of ordinary cents exist, it is the handful with these jaw-dropping features that turn collectors' heads and inspire record-breaking bids at auction. And to put this into perspective, we should remember that coins like the 1955 double die penny, the 1943 copper penny, and the 1969's double die penny have already sold for six figures or more. And when you combine the rarity of a 2014 D error with the modern-day fascination and competitive bidding wars among high-end collectors, you suddenly arrive at a situation where one of these coins fetches not just thousands or hundreds of thousands, but literally millions, climbing up to the $8 million mark because of a mix of rarity, condition, historical uniqueness, and demand. And what's fascinating is that these coins can still slip into circulation because errors are often released without notice, meaning that someone could potentially find one of these treasures in their pocket change, in a coin roll, or tucked away in a jar of pennies collected over the years. And that is why the allure of coin collecting never fades, because the idea that a single cent could turn into a life-changing fortune is too thrilling to ignore. And when collectors examine the 2014 D penny, they not only look at obvious doubling or missed strikes, but also study subtle die chips, cuts where parts of the die break off, leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin, or even tiny variations in the font of the date and mint mark that could indicate a unique die variety. And as more people become aware of the staggering value attached to the rarest examples, the hunt intensifies, fueling even higher prices. And so when we talk about the 2014 D penny worth $8 million, we are not merely telling the story of one coin, but rather opening the door to the incredible universe of minting errors, mechanical mishaps, and collector passion that transforms an ordinary piece of change into a legendary artifact. And this is why it's so important for anyone interested in coins to check their change carefully, to look for doubling, misstrikes, strange weights, unusual colors, and design anomalies, because the very coin sitting unnoticed in your pocket could be the next multimillion-dollar discovery. And with the 2014 D-cent, the world has witnessed how a modern coin, often assumed to be common and unremarkable, can instead capture the imagination of collectors worldwide, proving that the age of valuable rarities is not just in the past but very much alive today. And as stories of these finds continue to circulate, with every discovery fueling new interest, we see how error coins represent the perfect combination of mystery, history, and financial reward. So the next time you see a 2014 D penny, take a moment to study it closely, because it could be the $8 million treasure that changes everything for you. And that is the fascinating journey into the world of this legendary coin, a coin born of mistakes yet destined for greatness, reminding us that in numismatics, the smallest details hold the greatest value, and the tiniest coin can make the biggest impact. Next, 2005 1-cent USA coin. In this special video, we are going to uncover the fascinating story of how a simple 2005 1-cent coin, something that most people overlook as mere pocket change, has shocked collectors, enthusiasts, and investors by being valued at an astonishing $5 million due to its rare errors, mistakes, and peculiarities that set it apart from the billions of other coins struck that same year. And by the end of this journey, you will understand why such a coin is so coveted, what errors could transform a regular Lincoln cent into a multi-million-dollar rarity, and how possibilities of minting mistakes can sometimes turn the most ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc into a golden ticket for those lucky enough to spot it. So let us begin by appreciating the background of the 2005 penny, which carries the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. Designed by Victor David Brenner, and used since 1909 to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and on the reverse still featured the Lincoln Memorial design that had been introduced in 1959, which itself held many opportunities for striking anomalies that collectors always keep an eye on. And in 2005, millions upon millions of these coins rolled off the presses at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver. Yet among those countless pieces, a tiny handful may have emerged with the kinds of errors that could catapult their value from 1 cent to millions, with the particular coin we are focusing on today standing out as the crown jewel worth $5 million because it carries within its surfaces the combination of rarity, condition, and striking mistake that collectors dream of. So let's break down the categories of errors that might have contributed to such astronomical value, starting with the double die errors, where a coin shows doubling of letters, numbers, or details due to a misalignment in the die creation process, which in certain years such as 1955 and 1969 produced some of the most famous and valuable pennies ever. And if a 2005 cent were to show dramatic doubling on the obverse, perhaps in the inscriptions such as "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date itself, it would immediately become a key rarity. And if the doubling were clear, bold, and confirmed by grading experts, such a coin could easily fetch hundreds of thousands or more. But when combined with other anomalies, its rarity might justify valuations in the millions. Then we also have the possibility of off-center strikes, where the coin was not properly seated in the press and part of the design appears shifted dramatically, with blank space on one side, and the more off-center while still showing the full date and major design elements, the higher the value collectors will assign. And a 2005 penny struck off-center by 75% or more, yet still showing Lincoln's portrait and the date, could be extremely valuable. Another major error type includes broad strikes and clipped planchets, where the coin is either struck without the restraining collar causing it to spread out larger and thinner than normal, or struck on a piece of metal that was improperly cut, leading to missing sections of the coin's edge, which instantly makes it unique. And then there are transitional errors where the coin was struck using the wrong metal composition, and though by 2005 the cent was struck on copper-plated zinc planchets. There have been cases in U.S. mint history where old metal stock or experimental compositions accidentally entered circulation presses. So imagine a 2005 penny mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for a dime or struck on an experimental alloy. Such an error would send shockwaves through the collecting community. And then there is the incredible possibility of mule errors, where the obverse of one coin and the reverse of another denomination are accidentally paired together in the press, which has happened in extremely rare instances, like the 2000 Sacagawea dollar mule with a Washington quarter obverse. And if a 2005 cent were ever discovered with a mismatched reverse from another coin, the rarity would make it a once-in-a-lifetime find. Now, when we talk about the 5,000,005 dollar penny, we are not just talking about one error, but rather the perfect storm of rarity, condition, authentication, and collector demand. And that is why this coin holds legendary status among enthusiasts, because not only does it carry a dramatic minting mistake, but it also survived in pristine condition, likely graded MS69 or MS70 by a professional service, which means it looks as though it just left the press with no wear and nearly flawless surfaces. And in the coin market, condition plays as critical a role as rarity, because a spectacular error in poor condition may only fetch modest sums, but when combined with nearly perfect preservation, the price skyrockets. And what further drives the multi-million-dollar valuation is the intense competition among high-end collectors and investors who want to own a piece of numismatic history, because when a coin like this comes to auction, it is not just about the physical object but about prestige, bragging rights, and the thrill of securing something virtually no one else in the world can own. And so bidders with deep pockets drive the price upward until it reaches levels that shock outsiders who cannot imagine paying millions for a penny. But to collectors it is the ultimate prize. Now when we break down the possibilities that may have contributed to the uniqueness of this coin, we can imagine a scenario where the 2005 cent in question might have been struck on a transitional planchet left over from a previous experiment, perhaps a planchet intended for a foreign contract coin that mistakenly entered the press, and this alone would create a fascinating error. But then imagine if that same coin also showed strong doubling on the date and inscriptions, along with a partial off-center strike revealing the coin structure in a dramatic way, and combine that with perfect condition and immediate authentication by a grading service, you would then have a coin that checks every box of desirability. And that is why in the rare coin market sometimes values escalate beyond reason, because you are looking not only at rarity, but also at a story, and stories are what captivate collectors. Stories of mint workers who may have overlooked mistakes, stories of chance discoveries when an ordinary person found such a coin in their change, stories of auctions where passionate bidding wars pushed the price higher and higher, and all of these elements come together to elevate the 2005 penny into the multi-million-dollar realm. But let's also explore how error types are categorized and why some are worth more than others. For example, minor doubling or small off-center strikes are fairly common and might only be worth a few dollars to a few hundred, but major dramatic doubling like the 1955 doubled die or the 1969's doubled die is incredibly rare and valuable, and similarly, while small clips or minor broad strikes are collectible, they do not generally reach astronomical values. But when an error is so unusual and spectacular that only one or two examples are known, then the sky is the limit for its auction price. And in the case of the 2005 penny we are describing, its uniqueness cannot be overstated. It is the only known example of its kind, making it the pinnacle of desirability and Collectors understand that uniqueness equals value. Now let's think about the psychology of collecting and why someone would pay $5 million for a penny. Because it is not just about the coin itself, but about owning a piece of history, owning something no one else can possess, and having the ability to display or even privately cherish an object that tells a story of chance, rarity, and survival, and beyond that. Rare coins are also seen as investments, with wealthy collectors sometimes viewing them as portable wealth, stores of value, and tangible assets that can appreciate over time, especially when the coin in question is a one-of-a-kind piece that has captured worldwide attention. So not only is this 2005 penny a fascinating minting anomaly, but it also represents an investment opportunity, which further pushes its value skyward. And that is why stories of rare coins have always fascinated the public, because they reveal that even the smallest, most ordinary object can hold unimaginable worth if fate, chance, and history combine, and perhaps this inspires many to check their own pocket change, because who knows, the next multimillion-dollar penny could be hiding in an old jar, a forgotten piggy bank, or a roll of coins from the bank. Last 2004 Lincoln penny. Today we are going to talk about the 2004 1-cent coin, a Lincoln cent, that has reached an astonishing value of $1 million due to the errors and mistakes it carries, making it one of the most exciting and talked about pieces among numismatists, casual collectors, and even people who normally wouldn't care about coins, but cannot help but be intrigued when they hear that a simple penny, something most people wouldn't bother picking up from the sidewalk, could actually be worth a fortune. And to truly understand how this happened, we need to explore the details of its minting year, the types of errors that can occur on coins, the possibilities of how these errors were created, the fascination collectors have with imperfections, and how rarity and demand drive up values to seemingly unbelievable heights. So let us begin by first imagining what the year 2004 represented for the Lincoln cent, a coin that had been in circulation for nearly a century by that point. Originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, a design so enduring that it became part of American identity, with the familiar portrait of Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. And by 2004 billions of these coins were being struck at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, with modern high-speed presses cranking out hundreds of coins per minute, designed to be uniform, precise, and free from noticeable mistakes. Yet the human factor, the machinery, and the sheer scale of production made it impossible to avoid some mistakes slipping through, and when these mistakes are unusual enough or rare enough, they become highly desirable in the collector's market. And in the case of the 2004 penny we are focusing on, the errors were so dramatic, so unexpected, and so appealing that it skyrocketed in value far beyond anything anyone could have imagined for a coin of its type. And the key to understanding this lies in breaking down what kinds of errors are possible and how they might have occurred in this particular year, because errors can include things like double dies, where the design is accidentally impressed twice onto the die, creating a noticeable doubling effect on the letters or numbers, or off-center strikes where the coin is not properly aligned during striking, resulting in a portion of the design being missing and a blank crescent of metal left exposed, or broad strikes where the collar die that normally contains the metal fails and the coin expands outward, giving it an oversized appearance, or clipped planchets where the blank metal disc that becomes the coin is cut improperly, leaving a curved or straight clip missing from the edge, or even dramatic mule errors where two mismatched dies are used together, creating a coin that never should have existed. And in 2004 there are stories of a handful of extraordinary errors surfacing, some of them so striking that collectors immediately recognize their rarity, and in particular the $1 million 2004 penny is believed to have a combination of highly unusual mistakes that elevate it above normal error coins, with speculation ranging from double-struck features where the coin was struck more than once in a misaligned fashion, causing ghostly overlapping images of Lincoln's profile and the lettering, to extreme off-center strikes where the date, mint mark, and key design features are distorted but still visible enough to confirm authenticity, to the possibility of a dramatic die clash where the obverse and reverse dies hit each other without a planchet in between, transferring part of one design onto the other side of the coin, leaving ghost-like impressions that collectors adore. And what makes this story even more exciting is the idea that perhaps this coin contains multiple errors all in one. Something like an off-center strike combined with doubling and die clash, a combination so unusual that it becomes one of a kind, because when it comes to coin collecting, rarity is king, and when you have a coin that is not only rare but also visually dramatic, it captures attention instantly, and when collectors compete at auctions, values can rise astronomically, sometimes beyond what seems logical, but perfectly logical when you understand the psychology of collectors, who crave something nobody else has. And so the 2004 1 cent with its $1 million price tag represents the pinnacle of error collecting, because it's not just a penny, it's a story. It's a mystery of how exactly such a coin slipped past quality control in the mint. It's a conversation piece that makes headlines and captures imaginations. And this is why we see prices soar, because it combines rarity, visual appeal, historical context, and collector passion into one small copper-plated zinc disc. And when we think about why people are willing to pay such amounts, we realize it's about more than the coin itself. It's about the narrative, the thrill of discovery, and the belief that they are holding in their hands a piece of minting history that is unlike anything else. And let's not forget that 2004 was a year when billions of pennies were minted, making it seem absurd that out of so many ordinary examples one could exist that is so extraordinary. Yet that is the magic of mint errors. They happen by accident, not by design, and so their existence is unpredictable, making the hunt for them all the more thrilling. Because for every person who looks through rolls of coins from the bank or jars of change in the attic, there is always the dream of finding that 1 in a billion error coin that could change their life. And the 2004 $1 million penny serves as proof that such dreams are not just fantasies, they can actually come true. And this in turn inspires even more people to start searching, creating a cycle where demand continues to rise, fueling the already high values of such pieces. And when we analyze the economics of coin collecting, we can see that the value of a coin is not just determined by its face value or even its metal content, which in the case of post-1982 pennies is mostly zinc with a thin copper coating, but by the perception of rarity, the documented sales at auctions, the publicity surrounding discoveries, and the willingness of collectors to compete for ownership. And when a coin like the 2004 error penny makes headlines for selling at $1 million, it instantly becomes legendary, cementing its place in numismatic history and inspiring endless discussions about how it happened, whether more exist, and what it means for the future of collecting. And as we dive deeper into the possible errors on this coin, we can imagine scenarios like a double-struck coin with dramatic rotation between strikes creating two overlapping Lincolns, or a mule error where perhaps a cent obverse was mistakenly paired with the reverse of a dime or another denomination, something that has happened in rare instances in U.S. mint history and always creates sensational values. Or even a transitional error where the wrong metal composition was used, perhaps leftover planchets from another coinage year accidentally struck with a 2004 dies. And while we may never know the precise combination without examining the actual coin, the speculation itself fuels excitement and drives interest, because every possibility adds to its mystique. And mystique is a priceless ingredient in the world of collectibles. And it is also important to note that error coins like this are not just about mistakes, they are about the story of the minting process. They remind us that even in highly mechanized, technologically advanced facilities where billions of coins are struck with near perfection, accidents can and do happen, and those accidents, when preserved and discovered, tell a story of imperfection in a system designed for perfection, making them symbols of uniqueness in a sea of uniformity. And that uniqueness is what collectors prize above all. And so when you hear that a 2004 penny is worth $1 million, it's not simply because it is old, because it isn't particularly old, nor because it is made of precious metal, because it isn't, but because it embodies the perfect storm of rarity, error, collector demand, and storytelling. And that is why we must appreciate it not just as a coin, but as a phenomenon, a reminder. That value is often created by human fascination as much as by tangible qualities, and the fascination with error coins goes back decades, with famous examples like the 1955 double die penny, the 1943 copper cent, the 1972 double die, and the 1999 white AM reverse, all of which became household names among collectors due to their mistakes.